was the normal sort of teenager and stuff, you know what I mean? I would have been out with the lads and drinking and stuff like that. And then before I know it, then you start hanging around with different crowds of people and you start getting introduced to people, and before I know it, there's a lot of drugs on the scene, and it's extremely normalized. Like, it was almost like drug in itself being asked and being a part of something like that, you know what I mean? A part of that group. Pills were the first thing I started with, ecstasy and MDMA. And then afterwards, then the big one was cocaine, like, you know what I mean? That was the big thing that took over for a long time. I'll never forget taking it for the first time. Like, it was like I finally found who I was supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Because for a long, long time, it was the insecurities and the sort of never feeling part of. All of a sudden, it all made sense. Like, you know what I mean? This is why I was put on this earth, was to feel like this constantly, because I'd never felt like that before. You know what I mean? It was constant just insecurities about even just the way I looked, the way I dressed, where it was from, you know what I mean? And everything sort of played into it. I started to notice fairly rapidly that the gram or two of coke that I was getting and splitting with one or two people, it wasn't enough anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I needed one or two just for myself. And then before I knew it, it was 3 and it was 4, and then it was just up and up and up. And as that was upping, I hadn't got the money, so the only resort was to steal, you know what I mean? Was to start robbing people. Like, it didn't really matter who you were, like, you know what I mean? If you were in the way, you're in the way. I needed to get the money and I needed the drugs to sort of feel any way normal. I came in here the first time and I left and I relapsed. So I was in the Rutland twice. I came in the first time and it was for all the wrong reasons. I had drug debts to pay. I had high drug debts to pay, and my mother and father said that they'd pay them if I went into treatment. It was a compromise. And I said, okay, but in my head it was green light, means go, come in here, just keep my head down for 35 days and come back out and do it again. My debts will be paid and I won't have to worry about anything. The reason that I'm in recovery now is because of my mom and dad. That is the only reason that I made it. When I came out of treatment that time, when I relapsed, they continued on with their own recovery. They continued to go to their aftercare. They had their own family support group. And if it wasn't for Al-Anon and family support groups within the recovery community, I'd still have them wrapped around my finger and I'd still be using, or else I'd be dead. That's the black and white. There's no in between. Like, that's the way it would be. Like, that's the way it would have played out. After my relapse, within 2.5 months, I was sleeping rough. Like, I was on the street, and I realised, right, I'm on my own. Like, you know what I mean? Because no matter what I'd done, no matter how many times I tried to bargain, my mum and dad weren't having any of it because they knew that they had their own life to live. Like, I have 2 younger brothers as well. Like, they had people to look after. Like, 3 months of a relapse it was. So it took a while for it to sort of sink in, and I was sort of sofa hopping and stuff like that. But there was one night where things had gone really, really bad, and I found myself sitting on top of a bridge, and I was contemplating whether to leave or not. Like, you don't really sort of leave everything behind, like, you know what I mean, through suicide. Like, it had that way, like, and it was only for friends ringing me at the time, 1 or 2 close friends, and they came and found me. And they actually brought me down to the Rutland Centre, and I went to a meeting that night. I went to an NA meeting. After that, then I realised that I was in trouble. Like, you know what I mean? That it was after leading to that, and it was just I had to do something about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really, really made it back in here with the skin of my teeth. Like, it's sort of strange thinking back on it. Like, you know what I mean? To see that I was in that situation, like that, like all it took was for me to get honest, like, and become sort of down to earth, like, you know what I mean, that I was able to say, right, I need a bit of help. Like, I needed to put my hand up and say I need a dig out because I couldn't do it on my own. I always say when I came back in here after I'd relapsed, it was like hearing people speak English for the first time, because the only language that I'd had for the last couple of months was, where am I meeting you? How much do I owe you? What can I get off you? You know what I mean? And that was the only sort of form of conversation that I had with anybody for months on end. And it was a strange experience having someone take an interest in you after a long time spent on your own. I always get a sense of safety every time I'm down here in the Rutland Centre, because it's the first place I ever had a decent night's sleep. There's a serious advantage to being young and coming into recovery. I needed more treatment than just another 35 days in the Rutland Centre. I went and I'd done another 4 months of treatment in Navan, in County Meath, like, and I stayed there. I'd done my 4 months of treatment. It's It's almost like a transition house back into normal living again. So you start off doing a FOSS course 5 days a week. Again, the way I left it the first time, I would have went back using again because I had no foundation. I had some idea of what I wanted from recovery, but I hadn't got enough underneath me to keep me going. And that's why a longer sort of spell of treatment was needed. Like, it was only an extra 4 months. Now at the time it seemed like 4 years. I had built up this image of myself that I thought people needed around them, and they needed to see this all the time. And for me to turn around and say I'm not okay was completely out of character. So if it's nearly like you're afraid of being disloyal to this imaginary facade, or this imaginary like image you're after building up yourself, you know what I mean? And it's not like it's all smoke and mirrors. Like, it really is. Like, I can genuinely sit here in front of you and tell you that I'm happy out. Like, I am, you know what I mean? I'm going on to finish my degree now. I was never the type of person that was going to go to college at all. Like, I got asked to leave Ballyfermot College when I was 17, you know what I mean? I couldn't stick to anything. And when I say like it's a completely different life, it is a life I have now. And I'm just starting to value it because I'm grateful for it, like, you know what I mean?